recording. Yes, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is our first meeting, and because for some technical problems that we used to have online, we missed the first two classes. But as I said earlier, I have booked two replacement sessions, and they can appear online. Now you can see them, which will take place the day after tomorrow, Saturday. I'll write it down again. Saturday, the 21st of February, and our two replacement classes for our two missed ones. Okay? On Saturday, the 21st, please bear with me and concentrate and tell the rest of the students, spread the word if you don't mind. So the first one, we're going to meet between 3 and 4:30, okay? And then we have a half-hour break, and then we meet for the second class between 5 and 6:30. Okay, everyone? Please, thank you, Afnan. I want to see Salwa, Fatma, and Lina okay as well, and so that we confirm that you got it and it's fine. Thank you, Fatma, Lina, and Salwa. Why don't you okay the replacement time? Okay, Salwa, thank you very much. Lina? Yeah, Lina, thank you. Okay, 1 second, please. No? ممكن تنسي الأول. أنا عندي دحين محاضرة في الكمبيوتر. أوكي، شكرا. Thank you very much. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now, we start with the first chapter, which actually starts introducing you with the idea of language and society. It's sociolinguistics. It's language as used in the society. Chapter 1, Sociolinguistics, and that's the title. And then we have language. What does that mean? And society. It actually focuses on very many things that the native speaker would be behaving in the society from different angles. Before starting, I have to tell you that this is a professional book of sociolinguistics written by a professional writer. That professional writer is Peter Trudgell. Some people call him Peter Trubgel, our teacher. And I used to have also Noam Chomsky teaching me. They used to call him Peter Trudgell. It doesn't matter. That Peter Trudgell is a professional sociolinguist who was graduating from University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And then he was teaching in the University of Reading and University of Essex, where he got his professorship in sociolinguistics and in English language. And then he went to many universities in Europe, as well as in the United States of America and in Canada and New Zealand and Australia. And he has got lots of publications and lots of articles published. He wrote many books about sociolinguistics and the related matters like accent, dialect, and the school. He also wrote English accent and dialects with somebody else called Hughes. and he wrote international English, and he wrote applied sociolinguistics. There is also his book on dialects in contact, on dialect language in the British Isles, and then he has dialectology, the art of dialects, and then or the science of dialects, and then the dialect of England, and he has other books like that language and like language myths, and with somebody else wrote with him the book, and there's introducing language and society, and he is now an honorary president of the Friends of Norfolk Dialect Society. I think he is originally from Norfolk, and he is now a fellow of the British Academy. He is a big man, a great linguist, a leading sociolinguist, right? So the book is a good book. First of all, when you start talking about language and society to introduce sociolinguistics, you focus on people and how do they start their conversation as an example. So in England, it is very, very well known that when two people, for example, meet for the first time, what would you think that their first topic could be? يعني انتوا تخيلوا أفنان سلوى فاطمة لينا and Maram. أهلا وسهلا يا Maram. Okay, what could be the first topic that they might be talking about? هم ما بيعرفوا, they don't know each other. It's the first time they met. مثلا هم بيستنوا عند البus station, or they met in a train, or maybe they met in a shop هيك يعني, بس as an accidental meeting, and then they will depart. كل واحد حيروح على شغله. They're not friends. They just met and they happen to be both from England, and they just want to pass the time. What could be the first topic they might be talking about? طب بلاش in England. يمكن you're not that familiar with the context there, the situation in the English. What here? Bravo عليك يا لينا. Yes, the weather, the traffic. Yes, bravo. Yeah, the weather, the traffic. What else? مثلا تكلموا على الweather. Hello, hi, how are you? Oh, it's a nice weather today. Oh yeah, but they say it's going to rain tomorrow, and it wasn't that good last week, or maybe it was really, really nice and sunny last week, but today it's very windy, and so on. Yes, yes, Salwa. And then after finishing about the weather, وقعدنا نقول كويس ومش منيح وإلى آخره. What could be the following topic that might take place, you think? It would be about, for example, يعني the weather قلنا. Okay. ممكن the job that they might be doing. And what else? Maybe the social status. What do you do? They call it social status. يعني, are you a teacher? Are you a salesman? How is your job? It's different these days. It used to be this and that in the past, or now it's getting improved or worsened or whatever. Yeah, that's good. What could be our discussion here in our society, in the Arab society, in Hijaz, in Jeddah? What could be the first topic that might take place if two? يعني هما people إحنا are quite conservative, you know. They don't talk like from the first time. But suppose that they talk. What could you imagine that the first time? يعني مثلا أنتي شفتي somebody, مش ضروري يكونوا men. It could be women. So what could be the first topic and the second topic that might take place between people? يلا تراي يا بنات, يلا. أفنان سلوى فاطمة الغانم, فاطمة المحمودي, ولينا. What could be the first topic and the second topic as well that might take place between people in our society? يعني two people met for the first time. Yes, yes, bravo عليكي. In our society. Bravo, yeah. It can be, thank you, Fatma, thank you, Lena, yes. The study interests, the job, yeah. فأنا حكتب السؤال يعني what's the first topic to discuss? Okay, well done. Yeah, maybe that's right, ya Afnan. These days, politics, exactly. Yes, it's the worries of everybody and home, Lena. Yeah, that's true. Yes, we can go like very special, very private, and we can go on talking about the worries that we have about the world, the politics and what's going on. Yes, because it's getting too far. Yes. Okay. Now, we talked, those two men in the UK or women talked about the weather. What is the thing that we all realize about politics, about the jobs, about homes, about studying, you know, about all these things? What can we do about these things? And these things will be learned not so much from what other person says, from how it is said. That's what we are. How it is said. What does that mean? How it is said. It means that how those people use the language. And you will start realizing by saying, aha, that woman I met is originally from whatever. How would you know that? From her dialect. صح? So this is, okay, now you know, but did you ask yourself, how did you know in particular? Suppose you're not a linguist. You are a medical doctor or you are an engineer. But at the same time, even though you're not a specialized person, you can realize that this person is in the north. Yes, by interacting and by being involved in a conversation, you know how. Still, the question is not that linguistically answered. I'll tell you how. You look in details on the dialect itself and bravo عليكي, and the accent. That's right. So what is the dialect? What is the dialect? That is our first question. شفتي يعني we don't ask this question. I'm sorry, there is no voice. Now there is, yeah? Thank you. Madam, why did you leave? You joined again. I don't know, there was some fault in the, a very small one. Okay. And can you all hear me now? Can you all hear me? Yes, very well done. Thank you. Great. Loud and clear. Very nice. Well done. Mariam, your connection is bad, but how can we help you understand, hear properly? Mariam? Yes, okay, Mariam, that's good. Okay. Well done. Thank you very much for your interaction. Right, dialect and accent. There is a dialect, there is an accent. I want to make something clear. If we're not linguists, generally in the society, educated people would still call the difference in speeches between people, they call it accent. حتى لو كانوا يعني highly educated, but they're not specialized in linguistics. فكلمة dialect and كلمة accent is not that much appreciated in terms of the specific characteristics that differentiate between the two by people who are not specialized. We in sociolinguistics realize that, as agreed upon by all people, by all sociolinguists and and other linguists, that dialects are different than accent in that dialects, a dialect, let us say a dialect is when the difference, and not difference only, and variation, okay, occurs where, any help, any idea? How do يا بنات؟ يعني احنا عندنا we have our own speech, and the speech has got is structured. It's all structured, and the structure involves the grammatical structure as well as the vowels and the consonants and all that. If there is a difference, لما تقولي مثلا شلون وكيف، لما تقولوا in جدة، people from جدة، يعني all people مرات بيقولوا بدل كيف شلون، صح؟ يعني شلون عرفتي أو كيف عرفتي، صح؟ there is شلون, there is كيف. What kind of difference is this? Is it dialectal difference أو accent أو different in accent؟ طيب لما تقولي أقول لك وأقول لك وأقول لكش، there is ka, sa and cha, right? What kind of difference is this? This is concerning the sound sha and cha. Yeah, okay, regional and social. إحنا لسه مضبوط. We'll come to that. لكن at the same time إحنا بس بدنا نحدد dialect, the difference between the dialect and the accent. The dialect occurs when there is a difference and variation that occurs structurally at the level of grammar, alright? That's dialect. طيب accent is what? On the other hand, accent is variation when variation occurs on vowels and consonants. That's very simple. Yani, sorry, on the level, there is a mistake. I said of grammar. I said I wanted to say of grammar. It's just a typing mistake. See the difference now? Then when it comes to dialect, we have all the varieties of dialects that come under regional. There is regional dialects. Yani إيش regional dialects? It means that there are dialects that vary according to the geographic position. In Jeddah, in Mecca, in Taif, in Riyadh, in Qasim, in the eastern region, in the northern region, southern region, etc., etc., etc. All of these are related to kinds of dialects. So here, kinds of language of this sort are often referred to as dialects. So kinds of language of this sort are often referred to as, أكتبها in capital, dialect, because this is very good to start understanding what are dialects. There are kinds of language of variations, the kind of language associated with all things, with men type, with men and women, حتى men and women, even in between men and women. Women's dialects from the same family, from the same region. مثلا all of them are from Jeddah. Women would have also their own dialects and men would have their own dialects. ليه؟ لأنه men have got their own topics and education and interests and their being men is different. Not only because we are in Saudi Arabia. It's the same thing with men all around the world. They have their own variety of dialects that is different than the variety of dialects that women use. هيك يعني الله خلق الدنيا سبحان الله. That's how it works. So the term dialect is a familiar one, and most people will think that they have a good idea of what it means. They think. But when it comes to accent, unspecialized people, يعني هم people who are doctors, يعني medical doctors or engineers or salesmen, businessmen, they will say, oh, dialect and accent, they are the same, ya Sheikh, they are the same. I think they are the same. But إحنا no, we say that no, they are not the same, and there is that difference between dialect and an accent. Okay, so let us confine our attention for the moment to the term dialect and language to understand more about it. So as far as dialect is concerned, for example, it's possible, لو أخذنا England as our example, to speak, for example, about the Norfolk dialect. We said that the writer might be from Norfolk. I think he is. So Norfolk is a place in England. Like here, يعني الطائف مثلا, أو القصيم, Norfolk, okay? Dialect. So there is the Norfolk dialect. Or the Suffolk dialect. يعني مثلا, give me another area, زي مثلا المدينة. No, استني يا مرام, Anglo-Saxon, إيش دخلنا في Anglo-Saxon now? Okay, Anglo-Saxon, I'll tell you about this now. Anglo, مدام ذكرتيها, أنا هقول لك عليها. Anglo-Saxon is the Scottish, يعني شوفي وين نطيتي يا مرام, is the Scottish dialect in Scotland. عليه حنجيها إحنا. Anglo-Saxon, it's called Anglo-Saxon. Another word for Anglo-Saxon is when we talk about, the Celtic or Gaelic, in Scotland. So these are not English, but Scottish people know it, and they know their own language that is used. زي مثلا اللي هي we call it Welsh dialect language. So it's an Anglo-Saxon. It's more than a dialect. Anglo-Saxon is the Scottish language that's used in Scotland. No problem about that. It's a kind of dialect that is used, but at the same time it's not English, and people of Scotland learn it. They keep it. Okay, fine. Other examples given here. يعني حتى the same place اللي هو Norfolk is divided into southern, northern. So here we have Norfolk dialect or the Suffolk dialect. On the other hand, one can also talk of more than one Norfolk dialect. We have East Norfolk and South Norfolk, for instance. The very important point is that even in Norfolk and Jeddah, there is no one specific line that you can draw on land by saying, now you finish with the south, with the south Norfolk, and you start with the east Norfolk. They can gradually change. That's how it is. And Norfolk dialect and Suffolk dialect, if you travel from Norfolk to Suffolk, the county immediately to the south, investigating conversation rural dialects. As you go, you will find at least some points that the linguistic characteristics of these dialects change gradually. So dialect changes I'll say the word gradually and without having a line drawn to mark it. Do you have any question or shall I continue? Salwa, Wabir, Fatin, Fatma, Lina, Maram, Munira. Shall I continue? Shall I go on? Because now we will start discussing another point. Okay, thank you very much, Shibana. Thank you so much. Well done. Thank you. Okay. These things will be learned and by looking into these changes and to find out certain things about other persons quite clearly. You learn this, you acquire this information. You would realize that this person is using that word and you don't use that word because you're using another word, lexical form, which indicates your region, your part of land, the place where you were brought up. So these things will be learned, not so much from what other person says, as from how it is said. Right. Let's continue by what we call geographical dialect continuum. Geographical dialect continuum. Alright? What does that mean? You can see that on page or pages, not only page 1, page 3 and 4. Okay? We're still in the beginning. So what is the geographical dialect continuum? If we choose to place the dividing line, we talk about a line now, the dividing line, which doesn't occur, by the way. So that line, if we choose to have it occurring between two counties or two regions as boundary, then we are basing our decision on social rather than linguistic facts. Not really linguistically possible to do. People from Saudi Arabia who are living near Yemen, down in the south, you find, social is used by certain class, but I mean, إحنا, as studying sociolinguistics, we focus on linguistics because the political boundaries are actual boundaries. خلاص هنا الحدود, the boundaries, the lines, the political boundaries between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. خلاص, that country has started and our country's boundaries finishes here. But linguistically, we can't do that because language is found to having this kind of freedom without drawing lines. This is what he wanted to say. So when we talk about the boundary lines, then it's something related to the government and politics and not to the social kind of life. Socially is linguistically. And linguistically you find the overlap of Yemeni dialect on Saudi Arabia and of Saudi dialect on the Yemen people. Mexican Americans, yeah, that's right, Yamaram. And we will now focus, not now, in other chapters, we will focus on some certain parts in Europe, especially in Yugoslavia, which has been after, in 1990, when the breakup took place in 1990, and it is not called Yugoslavia anymore. Dialects haven't been affected, but in politics, I mean, there was this kind of breakup. But in speaking, in languages and dialects, the overlap was still found. And we can see that also in Canada. In Canada, because the Canadian society is a bilingual society. Some states in Canada use French and others use English. So the overlap can be seen when those, there is the neighboring kind of borders are found. The same sort of problem arises with the term language. So it's not only, it is not only dialects that overlap. The same thing as Maram said concerning Mexico, Mexican language, Spanish and American English in the United States happened. The same thing happened between languages. What is the example given here in the book? Between Dutch, Hollanda, Dutch and German. Dutch and German, and there is a language which is called Deutsch. And so, for example, Dutch and German are known to be two distinct languages. Dutch, the language used in the Netherlands, and German is the language used in Germany. However, at some places along the Netherlands and Germany, Netherlands and Germany frontiers, the dialects spoken on either of the border are extremely similar, unlike when it is in the center of Germany or the center of the Netherlands. So if we choose to say that people on the one side of the border speak German and those on the other Dutch, our choice is again based on social and political rather than linguistic factors. So here, social and political factors can dominate the linguistic one. But practically speaking, linguistic one is freely found. There is no borders, there is no restriction. This point is further emphasized by the fact that the ability of speak or of speaker from either side of the border can understand each other can often be considerably greater than that of German speakers. Okay? Right. So if we move on by talking about the criterion of what we can say mutual intelligibility. Okay, what about this? Mutual intelligibility, I'm sorry, it's using this at, which is instead of using the, I don't know what happened here, okay. So this mutual intelligibility is when people on the border can understand each other. طبعا our example is not a very good example لأنه people from Yemen and people from Saudi Arabia both speak Arabic. يمكن you have to learn some terms لأن البنات كانوا بيقولوا لي إنه in Yemen they say for I want ولا you want أشتي يعني أشتهي أو تشتي صح? Do you use this word? Do you know this word? Yeah, that's right. It means I want. أشتهي. What is the word that is used in Saudi Arabia? أبغى. صح? So there is أشتي and أبغى. Okay, if we say أبغى. these two are different words ما في إلهم يعني similarity أبدا بس إحنا because people here mix with other people from the south, they understand it. And there are plenty of others. This word came across my mind because yesterday we were discussing it. So this kind of mutual intelligibility is a kind of feature of criterion that can describe the situation. So people in Germany can understand Netherlands people, and people from Netherlands can understand German. I take you to another part of in our world, like Syria. When Syria has the border with Turkey, and we don't know Turkish, and the Turkish language is a different language than Arabic, because the family language is totally different. Yes, like Lebanon and Arabic, and Iran and Turkish. Yeah, that's right. Bravo عليك يا Lina. Yeah, that's right. So in that area, where Iskandarona, people living there, Syrians, can talk Turkish. And Turkish who are near Iskandarona, they are Turkish, they speak Turkish. Turkish is their national language, their identity is Turkish, but they speak Syrian Arabic. And so on and so forth. You can think about all examples. This is what happens on the globe, in the world. So there is the term language and the term dialect, and they are different than political and cultural factors, but they overlap, and they have effects. All have effects on one another, of which the two most important are autonomy or independence. There is what we call autonomy, okay, which is independence. And if we talk like this, we are talking about the political situation. But linguistically, autonomy is when they are dependent sorry, I don't want to confuse you. Yes, autonomy is independence, يعني استقلالية. And the other word is heteronomy. Which means dependence. What does it mean? What do we want to learn in here? So heteronomy is dependence. So we can say that Dutch and German languages are they autonomy or heteronomy? That kind of situation. Two languages, Dutch and German. Can you try? If you understand, I mean autonomy and independence. Heteronomy are dependence. And if we think about them, what kind of relation do they have? Do they have the autonomy relation or the heteronomy relation, if we speak sociolinguistic terms? Come on, Fatin, Fatma, Lina, Fatma. Yes, okay, that's great, autonomy. That's right. Why? Why? Because I always want to know, why? And Fatma said autonomy, and I say that's correct. I was happy. Try to tell me why. Asnan, Salwa, Abir, Fatin, Fatma, Lina, Maram, Munira. Why are these two languages are autonomy? Because, yes, tell me why. Because of the fact that they are two independent what? Languages. They don't depend on one another. They are two different languages, independent, different. That's correct. So when languages are not different, they are heteronomy. When the language is used and both people know them because they share, the same region. حتى لو في حدود سياسية. These are political borders, frontiers. حتى لو في frontiers that are political drawn لكن هم they know the language because of that. And but yet the languages are described to be independent, to be autonomous. Okay? Now you understand this? طيب, can we think of an example where languages are not autonomous but they are heteronomous? يعني German and Dutch are different languages, they are autonomous. And also in the same area there is Austria اللي هي النمسا. And people in Switzerland as well are sharing political frontiers together اللي هم Austria, Germany, Switzerland and the Netherlands. They share frontiers together. So they speak their own languages, which are independent languages, and in the borders they know each other's languages, which are different. زي Farsi or Irani, as you said, or Urdu, Hindi, all of that area in Asia, in Far Asia, Far East. People tend to understand. My driver, for example, is from Bangladesh, but he knows how to mix with the Iranians and with the Pakistanis and with Indians. And I say, oh my God, how do you know all these languages? And why do I say that? Because I know that they are autonomous languages, independent languages, but they just acquired them, you see? So these are good examples for autonomous languages. They are all heteronomous. They are all, autonomous. But, I mean, in those areas in Humma they share, and like Switzerland, Austria, or Germany, there are languages that are used there, like Deutsch, and like those languages that they mix, they depend on one another, like depending on dialects, on Dutch dialects, and other dialects with respect to the Standard German. So all of these languages used along the frontiers of those countries are called heteronomous with respect to the Standard German, in spite of the fact that they may be very unlike each other, and that some of them may be very like Dutch dialects. So this is because speakers of these German dialects look to German as their standard language. One example of heteronomous dialects, one good example for you to remember of heteronomous dialects is all Arabic, or all Arabic dialects, where standard Arabic is considered as the main and basic standard variety shared by whole Arabs. Do you see the point here? This is a very good example of heteronomous. They depend on one another. You have the dialect of Morocco, the dialect of Bahrain, the dialect of Kuwait, the dialect of Egypt, the Levantine dialect, Bilad al-Sham, Sudanese dialect. All are Arabs. Okay? Shall I carry on now? So here we have standard Dutch and we have standard standard German, and listen to German on the radio and TV and so on. So speakers, there are dialects of the Dutch side of the borders, they speak them. And in the same way, which will read newspapers and write letters in Dutch, and any standardizing changes that occur in these dialects will take place in the direction of standard Dutch and not in standard German, but they can still understand each other. This is another good example of heteronymous. They depend on one another and yet each one is independent. A more extreme case which illustrates the socio-political. So here we are talking about socio-political nature. We'll be talking about this kind of nature, the political one and the sociological one. Of these terms can be taken from Scandinavia. What are the Scandinavian countries? Do you know them? Denmark, Sweden, the Netherlands, Norway, is that right? These are called Scandinavian. And in Scandinavia, Norwegian, Swedish and Danish are all autonomous, i.e. independent, autonomous, standard languages corresponding to 3 distinct nation states. Educated speakers of all 3, however, can communicate freely with each other. Okay? I'll write it here, the Scandinavian countries. So they can communicate freely with each other, but in spite of this natural intelligibility, it would not make sense to say that Norwegian, Swedish and Danish are really the same language. They're not. They don't have the 3 Scandinavian countries do not have the same language, but they understand each other. Okay, I'll stop here for a little bit and then I'll come back to you. Yes, okay. This discussion of the difficulty considered in that direction. The difficulty of using purely linguistic criteria to divide up varieties of language into distinct languages or dialects will be discussed again, of course, later. So here we are just simply introducing ourselves to the basic understanding of these things. Right, it takes you now on page, I'll write it down here, on page 5, there is the discussion of the difference between dialect اللي قلناها من الأول and accent. Okay? Do you want to ask anything about it? Here, the dialect refers, strictly speaking, to the difference between kinds of languages which involves differences in vocabulary and grammar. Okay? On the other hand, and as well as pronunciation, the way you pronounce the word. On the other hand, the term accent, on the other hand, strictly speaking, refers to pronunciation only. And it is often important to distinguish clearly between the two, accent and dialect. Very important. They have the the heteronomy. Heteronomy language that is understood between them as dialects. But when it comes to Lina, I'm answering your question. The Scandinavians on the borders, they have the heteronomy kind of dialect that they share, and they understand each other. But on the other hand, each language is having this kind of autonomous kind of state, because they are independent languages. The language of Norway, Norwegian, the language of Sweden, which is Swedish, and the language of Denmark, which is Danish. But yet they understand each other. When it comes to understanding, they are using these kinds of heteronomy dialects, but the case itself of the languages is autonomous. Okay? Okay, Lina? Shall I continue? Here it comes to discuss standard English on page 6 onwards. Okay? Standard English, which is usually used in print, in newspapers, in the BBC News, TV, and also normally taught in schools. And that standard English that is taught to non-native speakers like us, you know, we have learned and we have studied standard English. So this standard English is different than the colloquial English. And it should be noted, it has nothing in principle to do with differences between formal and colloquial language, or with concepts yes, it's worth pointing out that because many people appear to believe that if someone uses slang expressions or informal terms or phrases, this means that they are not speaking standard English. But no, standard English has got its swear language, its taboo words, and its different expressions, and they can be expressed in standard English. Plus, all regional dialects have the same kind of thing, their own expressions and their own slang expressions and their taboo words and so on and so forth. Historically speaking, the standard variety of the language developed out of the English dialects used in and around London. So usually, in other places in the world, we can find the standard language in the north. In England, it's upside down. The standard English is found in the south, where London occurs, of course. And these were modified through the countries by speakers at the court. So if I ask you, where is the standard English found? Usually in England, because this book focuses in England. Then you have to say that standard English is found to be used by speakers at the court, by scholars, scholars like professors in, for example, Fatma wanted to say something in the microphone or something, no? Fatma, do you want me to release the microphone for you? Yes, Fatma, what do you want to say? Chat permission is on. No, you don't want to say anything? Okay. Never mind. So what were we saying? Standard English is used at the court by scholars from the universities and other writers, and later on by the so-called public schools and so on, because there, public schools are better than private schools. In England, it's the other way around than we understand in our society. It also is is found used in the upper class. So we have classes in the society. Classes in the society, we can find them as upper class, like, you know, upper class, and then we have middle class, like that, and lower. They refer to lower class as lower middle class. Lower middle, sorry, not lower middle, lower working class, because that's how, yeah, lower working class. And we'll come to discuss that in classes of the society. Usually the upper class is always that class that uses, you know, uses kind of standard dialect. Right. And we will talk about these in more detail later in different with language and social classes in more detail the following chapter. هنا احنا بس نعطي يعني some idea about these classes. Okay, if we go down and continue about standard English, there are a number of regional differences which tend to attract attention. Standard Scottish English is by no means exactly the same as standard English. There is standard Scottish. I'll write it down. Scottish English. They have their own English as well over there. People recognize it in the English in the United Kingdom. So here it doesn't resemble, of course, standard English. So standard Scottish English, for example, and there is also standard, in all languages there is a standard form. In our language the standard form is the written form. There is in America also the standard American English. And it is some ways even more different than standard English. The differences include large number of well-known vocabulary items. That's how you tend to really realize the difference between them. Vocabulary such as British, for example, when we say in British English, British Standard English, we say lift, you know, example. I'd like you to also please remember examples when you write something to support your idea. Example, British English will say lift. What would the Americans say about lift? They say elevator, don't they? Yeah? That's right, elevator. Into the rest too, English and American English and the difference between them? Okay, never mind. Okay. And what else do we have? Yeah, you studied them. And then, for example, British structural, the structure of standard British English and standard American English differ. British people, when they say I have got, the Americans would say, yeah, phonetically as well, and in structure. In structure, for example, English people would say in standard English, I have got. Americans would say, I have gotten. British standard English would say, it needs washing. Scottish, on the other hand, would say, it needs washed. See? So there are structural as well as phonetic difference, but also structural. When it is structural, then your knowledge becomes more sophisticated. So focus on the structural as well, structural differences. So there are also a number of varieties associated with smaller regions, such as, say, parts of North and Midlands of England. So in North England, they say, you need your hair cutting. The South would say, which is more standard, you need your hair cut. No, it doesn't make the other one wrong. They respect each other, and they know that this is your structural language and this is my structural language. Both of them, three of them, all of them, the Americans, the Scottish, the British standard languages and other dialects are all used properly, systematically, correctly. But each one has got it. إحنا as linguists as well, we respect this. And people in the society, they respect one another. Do you respect the language spoken in Dammam as a person from Hijaz, from the western region? يعني انتم من المنطقة الغربية مثلا. There are people من المنطقة الشرقية. Do you respect them? Do you believe that they speak proper dialect of Saudi Arabia? Of course, yes. It's a big yes. Yes, of course. And do they speak wrong Saudi Arabic? Do you speak wrong Saudi Arabic? No. That's the situation in the whole wide world. All dialects, take it as a rule in your mind, all dialects of all languages in the world, in all regions, are systematic, they are proper, they are correct, but they are used by their own people. يعني انت مش لما تروحي على الدمام you change your language into the language of the eastern region. لا طبعا. Sorry. You keep your Islam automatically. You can't change. We don't usually change our language. We keep our dialect and we use it. It's proper, it's understood and respected by other people. We understand and respect other people's dialects as well. But إحنا as sociolinguists or as linguistic students who study some kinds of features that differentiate, dialects and accents from one another, we focus our attention systematically on them. They do understand the differences and respect them. Yes, they do, but not in details. إحنا, we study them in details, so that we can give more detailed study and detailed analysis for certain reasons, like to document them and to make them written in books and referred to them by scholars and so on and so forth. Okay, on page number 7, what do we have? How long do we still have, Ibana? We still have another half an hour, maybe 25 minutes, just to know what kind of we try to cover this chapter now, so that next time, please have your books with you. And I'm not going quickly because you don't have the books with you. I feel that there is a gap between me and all of you. So please try to get the book on Saturday so that we can proceed on properly. Okay, so now, going back to standard English has a widely accepted and codified grammar. So the codified grammar is documented in grammar books that are used in schools and universities and by all educated people, and it has an influential position. Of course, it's powerful because it's used in all these places, as well as by the Queen. They call it the Queen English, or we call it received pronunciation. And it was imposed from above over the range of regional dialects. يعني كل الdialects would respect the standard, and we have the same. حتى إحنا illiterate people who are not educated, they still realize that standard Arabic, the written language of Arabic, is the supreme variety, okay, over the range of regional dialects. So the dialect continuum appears here to have this role, and for this reason can be called a superposed variety of language. It talks about standard English, standard language. I will call it language. They call it English, but generally the standard language is superposed. يعني فهمنا ليش. Why is it called superposed? superposed variety because it's used in all these places, these contexts of situation where they are the formal kind by educated people in universities, in courts, etc., etc., etc. This general consensus, however, does not apply to pronunciation. Okay, this is no universally acknowledged of standard accent. احنا بس بنسميها standard dialect. In standard dialect comes the accent, the pronunciation. Didn't we say in the beginning? When we say dialect, then it is the difference in vocabulary, the difference in grammar, as well as pronunciation. But pronunciation here is really restricted because it will be more detailed in accents. But there is no standard accent. انت ما بتسمعي the Queen of England say here. She says here, without the R at all. And it is at least in theory. So possible to speak standard English with any regional or social accent. So you can speak standard English and say here with the R. It depends really. So in this case, there is also one accent which only occurs together with standard English. This is the British English accent. I lived in England and I studied all my life in England, and this is why, well, sometimes I don't care. I pronounce the R, but sometimes I don't because I lived in the UK. I think if I lived in the United States and studied there, my English will be more than American pronunciation, especially with the R and all these. So the received pronunciation is another term, and we write it as RP, is another term to represent standard English. And there is also one accent which only occurs together with standard English. Okay, in received pronunciation, that's how we pronounce it. And people try to imitate it from different parts. Well, you know something, a secret, it's not a secret anymore. Everybody talks about it this way. People in England say, so what, received pronunciation or whatever. We will stick to our pronunciation. So they speak standard English, but with their own pronunciation. People from Scotland, people from the north, people from the east, from the west, wherever, they keep on their own pronunciation, especially nowadays that everyone is proud, is saying it loud and clear. We are proud about the region we come from. So another term for received pronunciations, we can call it BBC English. And you can find it in another term like Oxford English. Oxford in terms of not the city, Oxford English in terms of the Oxford English Dictionary, and the Oxford University English, not the Oxford City, because in Oxford City they have their own regional dialect. So we have the BBC pronunciation, and it's all related to aristocracy. Aristocracy. Okay, shall I continue? Are you following? Do you understand these points? They are very important points, these ones. So speakers learning British pronunciation comes like that. And the accent is taught to also non-native speakers like us. So we just get it, Jibanat. They don't tell us, don't say this, but you hear them using their own accent, and accordingly, we just acquire it. And same with you, with everybody. So the RP is unusual in that the relatively very small number of speakers who use it do not identify themselves as coming from any particular geographic region. RP is largely confined to England generally. Okay, Continue reading about the RP on pages 8 and 9. Discuss RP and other regional dialects and the pronunciation of, let me say like that, and the R, the English R. The R itself, we have unurbanized Britain برضه هم عندهم نفس الشيء versus urbanized. And how do we realize this? Britain. Okay, now the unurbanized Britain are found with old people, especially the dialect of old people and so on. And the urbanized one's accent is found to be with the new generation, and those new generation try to avoid subconsciously من غير هم ما يحسوا لأنه because they come to be more educated, they use all these means of communication and look at the TV and watch it and everything, and they find that people from the north or from Devonshire or from Northumberland or the Scottish Highlands to be considered pleasant, charming, quaint or amusing. And urban accents, on the other hand, such as those of Birmingham, Newcastle, London, all the big cities in England, are often thought to be ugly, careless, or unpleasant. This type of attitude towards, it's all attitudes of people, towards rural speech. Unurbanized is rural. Urbanized is more like city-like. So the rural speech is not so widespread in the United States, and this difference may well reflect the different way in which rural life is evaluated in the two countries, the United States of America and Britain. There are examples on page 9 illustrating the extent to which judgments concerning the correctness and purity of linguistic varieties and features are social rather than linguistic. Social becomes from higher class or lower class. It becomes more than linguistics. So all accents of England have an R sound in words like rat. Okay? Rat, you can't drop the R. You have to say rat in the beginning, or sorry. You can't say sorry, unless you have a tight tongue. هذا is a different kind of thing. But if you are normally pronouncing the R, you would have to say it has to appear in carry, sorry, rat, car, But there is the R that occurs after a vowel. They call it post-vocalic, after the vowel. And like the word car, after, the word itself after. At the end of the word, like after, or after a vowel, then we don't pronounce it in England. So the R in other contexts, at the end of the word, like car, as I told you, or before a consonant, before a consonant, or after a vowel, or non-pre-vocalic R. Accents with the lack of non-pre-vocalic R include a number in the United States and the West Indies, those islands. In the middle, ya Maram, ya Fatma, in the middle and in the last, it doesn't, you don't call it in the middle. You have to see where is it exactly. In the middle, it can be after a vowel and before a consonant in the middle. And you don't say in the last, you say in the end. Finally, in the end of the word. Yes? Like car, car, the people in America would say car, you know, or even international students and so on. So here, people in the United States and in Wales, in the New Zealand and in Australia, all of them pronounce the R. And in Ireland, by the way. So you realize them. Each one has got a different way of the R to pronounce. The RP prestige accent, they call it prestige or aristocrat, you know, all of these words are found. They don't pronounce it. So it's not prestigious in educated English and received pronunciation, that kind of English, to pronounce the R. Okay, going on, you find more facts about this, and telling you that some points are detailed in chapters to come, like chapter 10 and so on. Talking about these points in more details. We don't say corrections and this is correct and this is incorrect. Otherwise, we won't be proper linguists. We will be subjective people. Okay, now on pages 10 and 11, you see the discussion of the New York R. What about New York R? It's retroflex. It's really retroflex. It's known to be the New York R. New York, the New Yorker. New York R, and this has been studied by William, studied by the linguist, the American linguist, William, studied by the American linguist William Labov. He's a brilliant man, and he has made his recording, and he found out that all New York City speakers pronounce it, and he related a shift in subjective attitudes towards pronunciation of this type of the part of all New York City speakers. During the course of investigation, tests were carried out on the informant's subjective attitude. What do they personally think? In order to see if they reacted to non-prevocalic R, like the British R, as prestigious features. Of course, they say no, it's not prestigious to drop the R. As New Yorkers, they used to insist on making sure that the R is actually pronounced with a retroflex tongue. And it can be seen that for speakers aged under 40, there has been a sharp increase in the favorable evaluation of non-prevocalic before when they are old. But there has correspondingly been an even sharper increase, you see the word increase, in the use of the R amongst younger speakers. The older ones used to drop it sometimes, but the younger ones insist. See table number 1 on page. Look, all the tables are very important on page 11. Okay? On page 12, it carries on talking about what do they think about the R and so on. And then there are social changes which have had linguistic consequence investigations, again by Labov on page 12, looked at investigation by Labov, which has shown that the vowel sound of words like house and mouth and loud, ow, the vowel ow, which is like that, what about it? Has different types of pronunciation on on England. Okay, and also pronunciation of words like ride and right. So ow and I, let's say like that. And I don't have phonetic keyboard. So here it depends also on whether the pronunciation is urban. Afnan, of course we will all pray, but we only have now a few minutes left. احنا إمتى بنخلص? What time do we finish? We finish at 4:30. Now it's 4:20. بقي لنا بس few minutes. Let's finish with them and بتروحوا تصلوا. لسه بيبقى yeah, thank you. Yes, it is 4:20. فعندنا احنا 10 minutes. Let's finish what we finish and still Salah will be valid. مظبوط? Salah will be valid. So here look at the differences of pronouncing the vowels and the social attitudes again on pages 12, 13, 14, all discuss vowel pronunciation, yeah, and personal attitudes. There are tables of the results of the study as well. So look at them please, all of them, and we will be like, you know, more clear about how these people realize and treat differences. Yeah, there is Hopi speakers as well, who will be more aware of these connections and so on, from different places in America and Indian language. There are on pages studies also involve like examples from America, India, and other parts to show similar conclusions. Okay, on pages 16, 17, what else? You know, in Mali and all of these, and up till the end really, up till 18, 19, and 20. So read them when you get your books please, and see that on the end there is the sociolinguistics, the conclusion. In conclusion, see pages 21 and 22, which is the end of the chapter. Okay, thank you very much, Yalina and everybody. So here, sociolinguistics. Then let me just talk for about 5 more minutes to tell you what the conclusion says here, with concern with language as social and cultural phenomena. Social and cultural phenomena. Language as a social and cultural phenomena. Okay, not political, but politics comes here and there to define things only, but it's only that we are concerned about. So here, socially and culturally, language is determined, and the dialects accordingly can be found, and the different studies from different parts of the world took place, and it's there are good examples such as anthropological linguistics, psychology of language and social psychology and so on. There are plenty of studies that that have been realizing, differences in languages. There is also discourse analysis, ethnography of speaking, and what else? And the following chapters are discussing them and discussing these things in more like details. So here he is reminding us that, for example, a number of topics will be discussed in chapters 8 and 9. Chapter 6 deals with the way in which language is used in our train journey. Example, remember when they meet for the first time, social interaction, including aspects of discourse analysis and the ethnography of speaking. In chapter 7, for example, language and nation is discussed, and in chapter 10, language and humanity. And elsewhere, we shall be dealing with the topics under the heading of sociology of language. So here we have language as a social and cultural phenomena, which is the sociology. I'll write it down. Sociology of language. Okay, and I will stop here so that next meeting is Saturday after tomorrow, inshallah. From 3 to 4:30, twice, okay, don't forget. And from 5 to 6:30, and we will discuss until chapter 4. Okay? Right? Inshallah. Yani until we will finish chapter 4. Thank you very much. You can always leave, and we will meet again, inshallah, after tomorrow. You take care. Thank you for your attention. But you must all leave, by the way. If you don't leave the room, I can't get out. I'll stop the recording, and yallah, fi amanillah.